it's when the body continuously makes autoimmune mistakes.
Okay.
And for instance, oftentimes it begins with some form of damage to the gut, which is really important. That's where our immune system gets modulated, meaning it's given its different jobs, its different positions to play. And so, when damage happens there, which can be antibiotics, steroids, molds, vaccines, really any NSAID or chronically taken medication, stress. Stress is a huge one. Anytime any of that damage happens to the body, our body mounts like this inflammatory response. And the more times that it does that, then it can start to make some mistakes. And it can become what is called the autoimmune cascade if you don't cut off those things.
Okay.
Because those, once you get exposed to mold, or if you have food allergies or sensitivities, if you have them chronically and nobody diagnoses that and helps you overcome that and gets you on a path to healing, it'll be constant inflammation, constant immune response. And like I said, the more often that happens, then your body is primed to make other autoimmune mistakes.
Okay.
So thyroid is a considered an autoimmune mistake. Diabetes, asthma, eczema, all of those are inflammatory conditions that can come about from undiagnosed inflammatory response somewhere in the body.
Okay. Now, the other thing I don't understand is when you say inflammation, where is the body being inflamed at that point?
So if we start back to where the gut is, there becomes this what's called gut dysbiosis, or maybe a more popular term is leaky gut. To where the gut is supposed to be this impenetrable kind of like PVC pipe that only lets certain things in and certain things out.
And by gut, are we talking about the stomach or the stomach and intestinal tract, like the whole deal?
The whole deal,
Okay.
but primarily the small intestine.
Oh, okay.
I mean, this is
Okay.
where a lot of traffic happens with sending nutrients to the body, absorbing your minerals and your vitamins from your food. And unfortunately, what happens is anytime there's any sort of damage done to the lining of the intestine, it becomes permeable. And it gets kind of lazy. It lets things in and out that it shouldn't. And so bigger molecules, like say we're just going to take food. Say you eat a corn on the cob and your gut is now kind of like a sieve. What do we
Sieve,
call?
yeah,
Is it called
yeah,
sieve?
yeah.
And it lets corn like go into your bloodstream at that point in
Okay.
a bigger molecular form than it would have normally. Then the immune system says, you're not supposed to be here. What are you doing here? You're an intruder. Attacks it. When it attacks it, it makes an inflammatory response. So it sends a bunch of blood to the area with white blood cells to attack it and destroy it. But then that inflammation has to go somewhere. So, in our DNA comes into play. Everybody is going to react, respond. It's going to have a different effect on everybody's body based upon their familial tree and what kind of little chronic diseases are lurking in the family tree.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, is this something that everyone has a little bit of, but it's worse for some than others? Or is this something where a lot of people or some people just don't even have it all and then other people have it? Is it like an if or is it more like a scale that everyone has a little bit of?
I like to call it more of a puzzle piece because everybody has a different set of pieces that are making their puzzle. And so, you might have great genetics, but you got sick when you were a teenager and got lambasted with antibiotic after antibiotic after antibiotic. The doctors back then might not have known to put you on a probiotic and collagen and digestive enzymes and treat you carefully after that. And so then there became damage to your intestine, which was never tended to.
Just from the antibiotics?
Just from the antibiotics. And then, in the United States specifically, people tend to have, not just the United States, in all cultures, you tend to eat the same things. So with repetitive eating, and leaky gut, then those foods cross that, barrier in the intestine, activate the immune system. You get more inflammation, which irritates the lining of the intestine even more. It becomes a cyclical issue. And then, when your intestine isn't working well, you're not going to absorb your nutrients, your vitamins, your minerals. So then you start becoming depleted. Then more organ systems go, we can't handle this. Like we need nutrients, we need sustenance, and they start shutting down. So sometimes people start having pain, and then when they go to the doctor, for pain, they're going to get pain medicine. They're going to get steroids.
Right.
They're going to get things like that. They're not going to be told, well, let's look at your diet. Let's look at your gut. Let's see what happened to you in the past.
Treating the symptom and not the cause.
Right. So, but for me, I might have terrible genetics, and I might get one steroid shot, and that's all it takes. So you see what I mean? Everybody's puzzle is a little bit different.
Yep. Now, back to the inflammation again. Is that, I still don't understand what is being inflamed. Blood cells?
No, let's take another example. So if you sprain your ankle, what happens is a lot of blood flows to the area. You notice that because of the swelling and the discoloration and the heat and the redness. Those are all signs of an inflammatory response. And so what's happening in that moment is all this blood is rushing to the area because it's trying to heal those ligaments. So, but that was an injury. There's like a point A and a point B, and it stops and ends.
Right.
There's an end to that inflammatory cycle.
Okay.
So once the healing is done, that inflammation stops. It did its job. It goes away. Okay.
Yeah.
There you would be, going to an orthopedic going, what is wrong with my ankle? If it kept swelling for weeks and weeks and weeks and months and months and months, you'd be like, something's wrong. Well, we don't do that for some reason with other parts of our body. If we don't go, okay, what's this inflammation coming from? We need it to stop. There's no end to the inflammatory cycle that's trying to heal the intestine, because we don't identify what the primary offender is.
Yes. Okay. So how does this inflammation manifest itself? Do you feel some pain? Do you feel discomfort? Do you feel tired?
Yes, a lot of times it starts just like you would when you are sick. So people will get diarrhea or constipation, or they will feel nauseous, very fatigued. They'll have brain fog. Often there'll be an expression on their skin like eczema or psoriasis. In their lungs, they'll have a lot of allergies, or they'll have asthma. Pain, like we mentioned, migraines is a big one. And then, those are just the initial things. Then come the onset of other, more chronic conditions. And the reason that we call it an autoimmune cascade is because if you never go back to the root problem, you're just going to keep on having additional inflammatory responses happen in different organ systems in your body. And then you're on 10 medications.
Yes, absolutely. And in this scenario that you just laid out, is the root cause, the root problem, the leaky gut?
No, it's not. Leaky gut isn't the root. And I think that's the misconception. It's everybody's like, let's go back just to the leaky gut. It goes beyond that.
Okay.
And so, back to what I talked about with antibiotics. For patient A, that is their root cause. It started with antibiotics. Or, patient B, it might have been the steroid shot, or someone who lived in a moldy house and didn't know about it. Or, we could keep on layering these things. Parasites, that's often a root cause for people. Stress, believe it or not, can be a root cause for some people. I have done the gamut on tests on some of my patients and literally had to come to the conclusion, oh my gosh, you are this stressed, it's killing you. And back to the happy attitude, and what that does to our body and our chemistry. They literally had such a difficult job that it was causing their insides to not work properly, to the point they weren't absorbing anything, and it was so inflamed. So yeah, I think I think erroneously, some people think leaky gut is the root cause, but
Yep.
you have to keep on going beyond that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, let me ask this then. So is leaky gut one of the most common denominators of autoimmune diseases, or like can you have an autoimmune disease without a leaky gut?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a big issue because
very
if you're
big
going to have
issue.
autoimmune issues, whatever they are, you are going to have a leaky gut.
Mm-hmm. But I can't help a patient with their leaky gut if I don't find out which of those other root causes is driving their leaky gut.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. How would you go about diagnosing that?
It's a combination of listening to their story, which I think is so important, which is one of the hallmarks of integrative medicine. We take time to listen to the story. A lot of integrative docs actually make their patients almost write what feels like a small novel. It's almost like 20 pages of intake paperwork, detailing everything. And I don't think that's wrong to do. I don't personally do it. I like to hear the story.
Yep.
But that's a matter of preference, I think, at that point. So I listen to their story and combine it with the symptoms that they're experiencing. And then, budget is a consideration even more now that so many people are unemployed. I don't just like subjecting them to the 10 tests that would diagnose them. I try to pinpoint like, maybe we should check for parasites and food allergies and start there. If everybody had unlimited funds, my job would be pretty easy. I would just take a bunch of samples and then we'd be done. But it's not when you have several kids and not when you are out of work and, not when real life happens.